I want to show you what was one of my greatest fears as a mother. As my children were growing up, this was an actual fear.
Days. Those will determine how the 19-year-olds next year, those from 19 to 26 will be subject to the draft. So let's go down the list and give you the ascending order in which they were drawn tonight. We'll take them in.
And I remember telling my first husband, like my OCD would obsess about this as I had 3-year-olds, a 3 and a 2-year-old. It was like this was a burden that a mother had of little boys that they were going to have to join the selective service and they could be called up for war. And I mean, I had other more unrealistic fears as a mother. I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. I had dozens of tics, and some of them still exist today, but I'm really good at controlling them, not hiding them, controlling them. But I would obsess, I would cry, I would dream. And then I had a backup plan. We would take the boys and run off to Canada. We would hide. Well, my first house was for the Netherlands. We would go to the Netherlands. That's what we would do if there was a war. Come to find out, fast forward, these boys didn't even get drafted. They both joined the military. Oh, God. And what I consider a very dangerous time in our lives. But, yeah, now I think about that. And I mean, I don't have regrets. You can't have regret over an actual mental health issue, but I just think all the time I spent crying that my boys were going to be drafted into a war that didn't exist. And here they are in the military, both of them. It's just too funny. But on another note, the Vietnam War was straight up murder. Every time I teach it, I get a really good sense that my students have a better understanding of how, because see, I was raised to believe it was unpopular. My male history teachers would say, this is an unpopular war. Unpopular? It was unnecessary. It was unnecessary. When I teach about the Pentagon Papers, the first thing, which is so, I wish people could understand the impact of Trump being indicted for his crimes by grand juries, okay? How that is affecting our youth. It is amazing. We might actually have a better future because now they are sensing that it doesn't matter what position you're in, you are going to face your crimes. So something happened this year that's never happened before. When I talk about the Pentagon Papers and about, how things were released to the public, about, President LBJ and the Tonkin incident, the conversation always comes out, did he go to jail? Is he in prison? Did he ever face the consequences of lying to the American people? Did all these presidents go to jail? I don't care what you feel, but the idea that our young people are they're being aware. That's wrong to say. I'm just moved. I'm hopeful. They're just, because see, I couldn't understand why Nixon was pardoned. And even when I became an adult, I just thought Ford had no business. Ford wasn't even, he was never elected to be vice president or president. And there he is sitting around pardoning, big time criminals. Who the hell is he? But we have a young generation that is saying, Yeah, no one's safe. You don't get to commit crimes. Now, when this conversation evolved, I had forgotten, and then I remembered because it's not part of our standards to teach at this time. But I said, you do know the Supreme Court right now is deciding whether or not a president can go to jail or be sued or face charges for things that he's done in office. And we talked about, you know, what can a president get away with? Let me tell you about these young people. They're not Cold War kids like me who grew up thinking, president can get away with it. I mean, I even teach about Ronald Reagan, and I don't give a crap if he lied about the Star Wars program. I don't care. He was a great president. But these kids, yeah, they're gonna be very surprised if the Supreme Court comes back, which I don't think they will by the end of the year, by the end of the school year. It'll be an interesting conversation. What their ruling is, because when I asked the students, when we went over the case and talked about it, they say, why is this even in the Supreme Court? If it is a crime, they shouldn't do it. I was like, okay, well, how big of a crime? And I said, what about murder? Can they get away with murder? Because that was a big question that was asked. The Supreme Court justices asked Trump's lawyer, where is the line? That question was asked. I think it was asked to Ehrlichman at the Senate hearings. What is the line? What can a president not do? Murder? And Ehrlichman actually said, I'm not sure. So, yeah, this young generation don't put up with that crap. They don't put up with that crap. They think that, the president should be above reproach. He shouldn't. He'd be the one person that doesn't commit crimes. Committing crimes for the sake of national security. I don't think this young generation cares. Look how they're responding to Israel. Look what they've done. They've totally turned. And they're like, I was trying to tell one of my student teachers who I could tell was very bothered by the protests. And I said, look, that is change. The youth have to be the ones to decide what the future looks like, whether we like it or not. I mean, we still have voting powers, but the youth is saying, I don't care if these people were, good people, if they were abused, if they were, if crimes were committed against them in the past, they don't get a right to turn around and commit crimes. They're very enlightened. And I don't think we have any right to tell them how it's always been done. Yeah, but that's not how we do things. We have always stood by Israel. Okay, but Israel's doing some crazy shit. Okay? I have a fanatical liberal daughter, and she was butting heads against her conservative sister about Israel and the Palestinians. And Katie was like, Mom, she gets crazy. We can't even talk about politics because she just gets crazy. We're not allowed to eat at certain places. We're not allowed to drink at certain places. And, she doesn't understand. And, I'm a Christian and I'm going to have my beliefs. And she just texted me the other day, why is Israel being so mean? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? I said, well, I don't know enough to teach about it. Thank God it's not in the standards. I do not know enough to teach about that. I just know that we have to go by our instincts. And if it smells like a rat and it looks like a rat